Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. I am here today to talk about my reading goal decision for 2021. I mentioned in my Friday Reads video, my last video, that I had to go to jury selection and I didn't know if I was going to be chosen or not. I was chosen, so I have been in jury duty all day Monday, all day Tuesday. It is now Tuesday evening, and hence the weird lighting. And I am getting this video to you late, but I wanted to try to get something posted. And actually, I just realized I am still wearing my wristband that shows that I was temperature checked and asked about my symptoms. So that's the kind of week it's been. Jury duty during a pandemic is an interesting experience. Won't get into it here, but just FYI, in case you're wondering, it's interesting. Imagine all the pain and awkwardness of a Zoom meeting, but make it jury duty. That's all I'll say for now. Anyway, for my 2021 reading goal, wanted to talk to you about it. So I guess the best thing to do would be talk about some things I had thought about doing and decided not to do. So my original intention was to do an extension of my 2020 goal, which was read outside your comfort zone. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in my Friday Reads video this week about it. Because in my Friday Reads video for this week, I'm going to do something of a goal wrap-up for 2020. So I'll get more into the nitty-gritty of it. But my 2020 reading goal was read outside your comfort zone. And I had a couple of different prongs to that. I wanted to read genres that I don't traditionally read. I wanted to make sure I read different continents other than North America and Europe. And I had stated at the beginning that I would also try to reconsider books that I previously loved and reconsider some books that I previously hated, something like that. And I didn't get to that last part before I suspended my reading goal. Long story short, that ended up being too much. I hadn't really considered how even just the two different things kind of competed and took up a lot of attention. So I spent a lot of the first part of the year on the genre one, trying to read a couple of westerns, because I don't think it's fair to assume that because you've read a western, you understand the western genre. So I read 3, and I don't think it's fair to read a romance and say you'd understand the whole romance genre and so on. And then I started thinking, well, the same thing applies to all of these different continents. If I read a book by an author from Africa, I don't really understand. And this particularly came up with Tim Winton, because I read Cloud Street for Australia, obviously, and I did not like it, although a lot of people consider that a lot of Australians consider that their quintessentially Australian novel. And it just didn't really speak to me. But I can't say that I understand Australian literature just because I did that one, because I had so many different prongs to my goal. I didn't have the leisure to read like more than one book by someone from Australia. And that was getting kind of frustrating to me. So I kind of, around the time I suspended my reading goal, when was that? November, I think. I jettisoned the idea of continuing the Read Outside Your Comfort Zone challenge this year and just kind of take a break, reevaluate. And I won't even really super go into what the idea was, because I may revisit it at some point. Then I decided to take I was going to take a multi-prong approach to it, and I decided to take like one of those things to kind of take it outside of the Read Outside Your Comfort Zone challenge and focus on that. Basically, it was just going to be a TBR challenge. And I may still do that at some point, but I decided not to do that either. Basically, I was going to go through my shelves and think about some, but then of course I started making it complicated. Then I started thinking, well, what about other books that I don't own that I would like to challenge myself to read? I was making it really complicated, so I decided, you know what, I don't want to do that either. So, long story short, I was really getting myself stressed out about what's a good, feasible goal for 2021. And it suddenly occurred to me that I never used to do reading goals. The first year I actually did a reading goal was the first year I was on BookTube. And so it's different for me. And I kind of thought, God, wouldn't it be nice not to have any pressure? And then I thought to myself, I don't actually have to do it. I don't actually have to have a reading goal. It's just something I feel like I need to do since I'm on BookTube, so I could just not have a goal. And the more I thought about it, the more it was like, that sounds really appealing. And actually, especially since at so many points during 2020, I really struggled with my reading. I had unexpected surgery in February for hernia repair. It's fine, but it was not planned. And the recovery was a lot longer than the doctor had led me to believe. And I think I got one, maybe two books read in the entire month of February. And then with election stress, I really had a downturn with that and just barely managed to hit the number for my reading goal on Goodreads. And by the way, I'm trying to move more. So my one thing I will say is I am going to try to move more toward using Storygraph instead of Goodreads, but that's not a goal. I'm not going to put any pressure on myself. So there was so much that went on during 2020 that was really stressing me out and made me feel like I had to check all of these boxes, and it just wasn't fun at a certain point. And I want it to be fun. That's the whole reason behind the name of my channel. It's like, this is supposed to be fun. So that's kind of the thinking behind it. I'm not gonna have a reading goal. I want it to be fun again. And I ran into a thing last year where I judged 2 rounds of the BookTube prize, one in fiction, then the next in nonfiction. Then I decided to take one off, and then by the time it came to the final round, so much was going on that I just decided not to. And part of why I had taken one of those rounds off was that I was like, I'm not getting any work done on my reading goals, and I want to try to focus on those. So I feel like not having a reading goal allows me to explore other things. I'm not saying I'm going to participate in every round of the BookTube prize this year, but I didn't feel like I had freedom. And I actually kind of enjoy having freedom. I kind of miss the freewheeling, don't know what I'm going to read next, and spur of the moment picking something as I finish a book. I miss that. I want to get back to that. I want to have that freedom. And actually, I've already put it into action this year, because the first book I finished in 2021 was G is for Gumshoe by Sue Grafton. And I hadn't decided what I was going to do, but then, spoiler alert, I did mention it in my last Friday Reads video. The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. is the book I ended up picking up. This is only the jacket, because I don't leave the jacket on when I'm reading it. The book is actually out in the house. But anyway, this was totally spur of the moment, because this book arrived, spoiler for my January book haul, and I decided, you know what, this sounds really good, and I've heard really good things about it all of a sudden because it's been released, so I want to read it. And I miss being able to do that. And I don't know what I'm going to read. Actually, I got a library book. I'll talk about it in my Friday Reads video for this week, but I got a library book. That's probably what I will do after this. But point being, I like not having a plan. I like being able to make decisions at the spur of the moment. Like, you know what? This is here. It sounds good. I want to read it. And that's kind of what I want to get back to. So that's the thinking behind it. I hope it makes sense. And like I said, I do want to get back. I really did enjoy the idea of the Read Outside Your Comfort Zone challenge. I think I just made it too complicated. Particularly, there was no way I could have known when I set that goal that there was going to be a pandemic and that there was going to be a contested election and any of that stuff. There was no way I could have seen any of that coming. But I certainly set myself up to have a challenge, and challenges are good, but I made it difficult for myself by putting so many different bits into it, because it felt like you can't just have a simple reading goal. It has to, I don't know, I felt like it had to be complicated. I felt like I had to give it a couple of different parts, and that was just silly. So anyway, so I do want to try to get back to it at some point, revisit the one that I had been thinking about for this year. I would like to do that TBR challenge, but I think my initial idea, which was just to focus on TBR items that are on my shelves already, would probably be the best way to go. Because as soon as I started trying to think about, well, I've been wanting to read this for a long time and I don't have a copy, but I should do it. And, I can get this from the library. So I just started throwing more stuff on top. And it just started getting overwhelming. And I feel free. That's the amazing thing about this whole thing. Ever since I realized, you know what? I don't have to have a reading goal. I have felt genuinely free. And I know that's silly. I am very much aware that that's silly. But it gives me room. It feels like I have control of my own reading destiny again, and that's really nice. So will I get back to a reading goal at some point? Probably, but smaller and more manageable. I may think up in June about potentially doing a mini goal for the rest of 2021, but right now I'm going to be freewheeling, and it's likely that I'm just going to do this for the whole year and just see what happens and enjoy it, have a ride, and go with that. I think it's going to free me up, oddly, because having no reading goal may help me get to certain things. Like, actually, I'm looking at the shelf behind me. Look, I got Betty last year, and I have it didn't fit into any of my reading goals for 2020. And if I had a reading goal for 2021, I would certainly have to prioritize. If I was doing TBR, I'd have to prioritize other things that have been sitting on my shelves for longer than that. But that is something I actually want to read. So when will I ever get to it if I keep coming up with these goals? And now that I'm doing this kind of freewheeling approach, I can look at my shelf and think, oh, you know what? I want to read that. Boom, done. Instead of looking at my shelf thinking, oh, I want to read that, but I should read something else. Generally. So it feels free. I hope that makes sense. I hope you understand that. So, but no judgment on anybody who is doing a reading goal. I appreciate, like I said, I've enjoyed the ones that I did, and I think, I haven't done the full study into, how I did on my reading goal. The first year I did it, my reading goal actually had some kind of measurable progress. So my goal was to read more books by women than by men. Did it. Knocked that out of the park. I did really well on that. And I wanted to read books, the LGBTQ books, that focused on the L, the B, the T, the Q, and the anything else. And I managed to do that. I made a lot of progress. And it was nice that those were kind of measurable and vague enough that it allowed me to pick things that I wanted to read still. Like I tend to read LGBTQ books already, so there was something within my wheelhouse right there. I just had to try to focus, and I could read books that had a gay focus, but I had to remind myself along the way, okay, you really need to read a book with a lesbian focus, get something with a transgender focus, and it's fine. Or I could just look at my shelves and say, okay, Betty, that's got a female author, so that's going to be working toward my goal anyway. Boom, done. But this year I had to look at my shelves and be like, okay, well, I can't read this because it's not a Western. Can't read it because it's an American author. And it limited much more than I had anticipated that it would. And again, I hope that kind of makes sense. So that is what I've decided in a reading goal for 2021. Again, I hope it makes sense. But I would love to hear, I'm trying to catch up because, again, with all the stress of like jury duty and things being busy and then the world just kind of falling apart in general. By the way, I hope you're staying safe because on top of all of the political turmoil, there are COVID spikes. Please stay safe. Keep wearing a mask. Do your part, and hopefully there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. But anyway, I'm trying to catch up on. I'm still catching up on people's best of 2020 and worst of 2020 lists, and then I'm going to try to catch up on some of the goals videos. But if you have a goal that you would like to share, I'd love to hear it. The comment section is down there. I would love to hear, even if it's not a goal, if you have any kind of purpose to your reading in 2020, I would love to hear it. If, like me, you are just going to take a freewheeling approach, be very lackadaisical, and just kind of go with the flow, see where the road takes you, I'd love to hear that as well. And I'd love to hear how your 2021 has gotten started in terms of reading. Like I said, I have already started this. Spoiler alert for my Friday reads. I'm really loving it so far. But I'll talk more about that then. Anyway, I think I'll leave it here for now. Like I said, I will be doing more of like a wrap up on my 2020 goals in my Friday reads video. I just haven't had the time to sit down and actually like go through how I did. Hopefully then. And I'm going to try to do, tomorrow should be my last day of jury duty. And I'm going to try to sit down and do a book haul revisit for January. I'm not ready to do my haul for January, but we'll see how that goes. So anyway, that's all I'm thinking about with my channel. Upcoming things, my project for 2020 or lack thereof. And as always, I really appreciate your time, especially if you follow along. And I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.